can explain some of this without even reading this report. So we've had a loss of 701,000 jobs. The survey of employers, of course, took place in the pay period, including March the 12th. New York City shut down all bars and restaurants, just as an example, on March the 15th. So it's that week before that date certain, March 15th, when some restaurants were already closing, some bars already closing, and not just in New York, but these are the most, certainly out in California as well, these are the most heavily populated areas. So it was even in advance of this, you were seeing heavy job losses and layoffs that week in which the survey was taken. So if you're surprised by this number, that could be part of the explanation.
Well, we got an unemployment rate of 4.4% now. So if you're considering what you just said, Dagan, you're talking about an unemployment rate much higher than this. Now, markets are reacting. We're down 202 points right now on the Dow Industrials as we react to these numbers. We've got more to talk about. We've got the labor participation rate and wages as well. Let's get to Edward Lawrence in Washington. Edward.
Yeah, very interesting things in this. The average hourly wages actually rose for those first 2 weeks of March, 3.1% over the past 12 months. They rose 11 cents. The labor force participation rate at 62.7, down 0.7% on this. Also, if you look at some of these numbers going in here, you can see that the jobs, construction jobs, lost 29,000. The goods producing jobs down 54,000. Private sector producing jobs lost 659,000 jobs. Retail down 46,000. You can see where some of those job losses are coming in those retail good producing services areas. Maria?
Yeah, you've got, so what you're saying is there are certain areas that have not seen the stark reality as others, Edward. Right. Lisa Erickson, what are you seeing out of these numbers, and when would you expect some kind of a rebound? Is it all about the virus and the pharmaceutical sector?
Well, it certainly is really sobering to get a print that's lower than estimates. I think at this point, I probably wouldn't put too much stock into it, only because of some of the factors that we've been talking about, that it's not reflecting the most current situation, but also because, you know, I think what we've seen from the estimates lately is it's really difficult to get a grip on where things are headed, because people really are having a hard time assessing the very unique nature of the slowdown. As far as what it's going to take to turn it around, I think it's really two things. It's what you mentioned, Maria, in terms of really being able to get more of a sense of vaccinations or cures potentially for this. And in addition to this, I think it's, to Dagan's point, really around when we can lift the social distancing policies, because at the end of the day, that's really what's causing stoppage in economic activity.
Yep, it's a good point. Stephen Moore, jump in.
Well, I was just thinking, Maria, remember exactly a month ago we were all sitting here, you know, proclaiming we had the best economy in 30 or 40 years with the 350,000 job gains. And it's just, it's so heartbreaking to see this happen. And if those numbers that are right, Maria, that you were talking about, some of these projections, the economy is going to fall by 20 to 30%. Those are horrific numbers. I remember when I was a kid reading about the Great Depression and those high unemployment rate numbers. I never thought we'd see that in our lifetime, but we potentially will. And I'll just go back to that point I made earlier. All of the recovery hinges on getting the economy reopened as quickly as possible. I really worry if we go past May 1st that the damage and the carnage cascade so much that it makes it really difficult for these businesses to reopen. It's not, I think a lot of people think that this economy is like just an ignition switch that you can just flick on and all of a sudden the jobs will come back.
It takes time.
And I really worry when you see so many of the bankruptcies that are going to happen. I hope they come back, but we've never experienced this before.
But Steve, you don't know. I mean, everybody would like the economy to open by May 1st. I totally understand what you're saying, but we don't know. We don't know where this virus is going.
At least,
we're getting
Maria,
new details
at least on
this
a
morning from
rolling
the
basis,
CDC.
at least in areas where we can get the economy going, let's do it. I mean, New York City is going to be shut down for a while.
But there's a debate about that as well, Steve.
Nationwide
There's a
shutdown
debate
really
about
bad
that as well.
But can I?
Because people feel that if you're going to shut down parts of the economy and not other parts, then the people who are infected are going to go to the other parts that are not shut down, and then this just keeps going and going and going. That's the whole thinking behind all of these calls to have a true shutdown nationally across the board. Go ahead, Dagan.
I'll get to that in a second. But one thing I want to point out to Steve, historically what the United States has done is come in with aid for people who lose their jobs. But as the Wall Street Journal has been writing, Greg Ip has been writing, we're doing more than that right now. We are giving money through the $350 billion in the Small Business Lending Grant Program. Through the Federal Reserve, we're giving money to businesses to not lay people off. So you get 2 months of payroll that's just forgiven via a loan, a Small Business Administration loan. So we're paying as a nation, borrowing money and paying employers to keep those people on their payrolls. So we're coming at it from both angles. So it's not necessarily like, oh, you get a month, I'm going out of business in a month, and those jobs aren't going to come back. I'm not dismissing the concern about the destruction of those jobs permanently, but we're doing something very different than we've done historically, and we're trying to do it with speed.
Yep, that's right. Joni Courtney, go ahead, weigh in.
Yeah, Maria, I think, this report shows that leisure and hospitality lost 459,000 jobs. And that's where it really started. We saw travel slow down. Aviation certainly was impacted. And if you look at the job posting numbers, we've seen the decline in aviation, travel and leisure, restaurants, retail, but that's just the start of it. So it is only going to get worse every week until we get this under control. And I do think wages, though they held steady, we're even seeing some hourly wages of the frontline workers. I mean, truck drivers, logistics, warehouses. Companies are stepping up and actually paying their people more money per hour to come to work and try to keep them safe, just to keep supply chain going. So there are jobs in that area. There's jobs coming back too, mortgage, banking, I hate to say it, but collectors for delinquencies. Right now, we're working on an opportunity for 500 to 1,000 attorneys to help with some of this small business. So there are opportunities out there. But unfortunately, this is just the start of the real declines, and it's only going to get worse for the next month to, who knows how long, a couple of months.
Hey Maria, can I jump in?
Because we don't know about the virus. Go ahead, John Lonsky.
Oh, yeah. You want to take into consideration that right now, we have, for some workers, wages are actually falling, unfortunately. I just read a story about a well-known engine company. I won't use its name, but it has imposed a 25% wage cut to help conserve capital. And there are times I'd like to be optimistic about how this plays out, but I can't help but notice that right now in the United States, we've had roughly 4,000 deaths from the coronavirus, and that is much, much less than the 100,000 to 200,000 deaths that are now predicted by the Trump administration. And because of this, I can't help but think that we have a very rough road ahead of us. And, we do have these job openings, but are people going to be afraid to go ahead and take advantage of these job openings because they fear getting ill?
No, the answer is no, because Amazon has hired 80,000 of the 100,000 people that it's wanted to hire. But I do think that we need to focus on the people who are putting their lives on the line by keeping us fed and working in hospitals and medical centers nationwide. They ought to get paid more, and more than just a $1,200 check from the Treasury Department. That's on business, but it might be on the government down the road to make sure those people who are putting their lives on the line to keep us fed and keep us healthy get paid what they deserve. And I sound like Bernie Sanders.
That could be. No, that could be in a phase 4 deal, by the way. The Congress and the president talking about a phase 4 deal in terms of another relief package. You're right. It may very well be that more money goes to individuals on the front lines.